Hello and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Kasey Jones.
And I'm Ashleigh.
And I got to be honest, Ashleigh and I are like a little ridiculously excited about this one. Just a bit. So today we are joined by the one and only, the great James Say What Sales Buckley. James is an absolute force in the B2B sales world, and really because he just has a spectacular attitude and a positivity that is infectious. It's something that just makes everybody who is paying attention to him, who is in his proximity, in his orbit, just feel a little bit better about the world. And like what the hell does James do? So James, he's worked for a number of different sales companies, has built a really impressive kind of personal brand around his expertise, his personal branding work, his willingness to kind of help others. And now he is kind of the newest addition to the JBarrows sales team. Of course, if you're listening to this, you probably know who John Barrows is. So James Buckley, welcome to the Other Side of Sales.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been something on my gotta be there list for a long time. So I really appreciate the time, and I'm really excited to be on the show.
Yeah, no, we are so happy and excited to have you. It's funny, James and I connected over social media, like probably a year and change ago, but it wasn't until this September at AAISP that we got to meet in person. And it was like, it was a momentous occasion. It truly was. And I think it's funny because I think there's several people that have a very similar experience with you, James, of feeling like you are, I don't know, one of their inner circle, even though you haven't met in person. And so maybe just to kind of get us started, you don't have to really reveal all the details, but what is your secret to forming such meaningful and strong bonds with people that you haven't even met in real life?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it, in a way, it's the first time I've been asked that question in that manner. So I think that there's probably a lot of nuance to it, but I don't think I have to try very hard. I just am myself all the time. I've often said that I'm the same person that you meet online. When you see that person, when you meet me, I am the same person when you meet me in person.
That's absolutely true.
So to answer your question, very straightforward, I think authenticity is probably a big contributing factor to why people gravitate towards my personality. Now, don't get me wrong. I've always said that there are other people out there that feel completely different about me and my personality. And I think everyone kind of has that. And I'm noted for saying that there's certain personality types that people just tend to gravitate towards. And then there are other personality types that people tend to avoid. I think I have a magnetic personality, and for some unknown reason to me, I still don't know, but people just want to tell me their stuff. They just want to like, hey, will you listen to me for a minute? I don't know if I have like a face for that or if it's my tone, but I used to work retail here in Tennessee, and I would say, hey, how you doing tonight? And for some unknown reason, people would just unload their personal stuff on me at the cash register. And to some extent, you sit there and you listen, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Tell me more. And you're so interested in what they're saying. And in other instances, you're like, do you need a bag for this Sprite? Like, I'm happy to have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for all that incredibly personal information.
That I did not need to know. And, it's funny because the same stuff happens to me where, like, not that long ago, I was getting my teeth cleaned and like 30 seconds in, and the dental hygienist is talking about how she's having an affair with a married man. And it's like, I've got things in my mouth, like I can't talk. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're going here. And so like that, I don't know, maybe this is why you and I get along so well. It's like, there is something there's the same thing happens, and there's something that very much feels like a gift about that. And then sometimes you're like, I could do without this gift. I really could.
I just have neighbors who randomly cry when they see my dog.
Well, that is very understandable.
Yeah, my dog is basically a stuffed animal. So I've gotten used to that. But I've got. I'll say this: I don't have people who will randomly unload. My husband is consistently surprised how I'm able to strike up a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
Like I'll be in line at the grocery store and all of a sudden I'm talking with the woman behind me and we're comparing like the quality of the produce or getting tips on where to buy things locally or something like that. He's like, how do you just do that? I'm like, I don't know. It just happens.
Well, so I think there's an old soul to this, right? Because I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's just something that we're either born with or we're not. Some people truly love engaging with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I get the best rush out of turning around in the line at the grocery store and being like, so do you come here often? Just to make somebody uncomfortable for a minute. And it's like a grown man, like they're, what is that?
See, I feel like if I tried that, it would be like, what are you selling? You do that, it's like, who the hell are you?
I just get a kick out of the responses. I think human beings are so interesting. The way that they interpret information and then respond to that is just so, it's a wonder to me how we've come as far as we have. And I look at generations that are in front of me and generations that are behind me and the way they communicated, and I try to find what the best route is to go. I think that people put a lot of like pressure on the millennials, like to be different. I don't think they have to be different. I think they just interact differently. We're all like children of our environment, right? And their environment has been very heavily influenced by technology, but some people are able to detach from that technology quite easily. I don't know if it's an age thing or a generational thing, but those people really gravitate towards me when I start talking to them. And I just adore them. I love all of you out there, people that talk to strangers. I love all of you.
Well, you also have to think about one of the things that I think has also really impacted millennials is the fact that so many millennials came of age right after the Great Recession. And so there's also this they had the baby boomer parents that were kind of telling them, you go to college and everything's going to work out and you're going to make a bunch of money and everything's
go to college, get
fine.
a job, it'll be fine.
And it was, okay, went to college, now I'm, $100,000 in debt and I can't get a job. Oh my God. And so there's also this and I think that's a thing that means there's this lack of security, this lack of sort of trust in the world around, and that's really challenging. And I think one of the things that's also just so striking about you, James, and so one of the reasons why people just gravitate to you so much is you are fiercely positive. And not in a way where it feels like BS, and not in a way where it feels like you're naive or you're not like grounded to reality. It's just you have this really infectious way of like looking at the world through a really positive lens, and it's remarkable.
It's positive, but it's authentic positivity.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, everything's wonderful. It's, yep, this kind of sucks and it's okay.
and I'm gonna laugh
and we're
about
gonna figure out how to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to laugh. I am very comfortable with a sense of humor about life. I think that I can laugh just about anything off. It's a choice that we make, and that's what I tell people. And I've been asked this question a lot, like, man, every time I see you, you're smiling and so happy, and your life, you talk about things, and the way you speak is just so positive and uplifting. And I say all the time, like, it's a choice that I make every day to get up and feel this way. And if you make that choice, everything about your life just exponentially gets better day after day, because that's what you're putting out there, right? Life is that thing where you can just put that, and sales is exactly the same way. If you think about what it is to draw attention, because that's the first step, right? Attention is that thing that we all need before we have a chance to develop any type of relationship with somebody and earn the right to provide some kind of value. I talk a lot about this instinct that we're all born with innately, to sit around a fire and tell stories and learn from those stories. Even before the written word existed, we were sharing information with each other in a positive way because it was all brand new. It had to be positive. There's no other way for it to be. If you're learning something new, imagine like the first time somebody learned how to make a fire, right? Like there's only one way to look at that, positive. Right?
So even the negative stories, the horror stories. I mean, like you talk about a campfire. Even the negative stories are positive because who doesn't love a scary story around a campfire? That's a positive association.
Sure is. But I'll tell you what I'm learning how to do is filter it. I think that what the JBarrows team does is so rapid. I mean, people want the training constantly, and it's just forever asking questions. And I'm learning now to filter that through a screen of, you know, where should I spend my time? And that's been a really big change for me because I spent like the last 5 years just going, oh, whatever it is, just bring it on in, you know, like big bear hugs for everybody. Like that was my MO. I would talk to anybody about anything. And now I'm finding that I'm having a hard time giving time away, and it's heartbreaking for me because I love just talking to people, but I'm learning that my time is actually much more valuable than even I thought it was. And that's been a big transition from doing something that's very outbound and product focused to joining a team that has a luxury of being quite selective about who they work with and why, and they want to make sure that the people that they train actually appreciate the training and are going to go through the process of what happens after the training. That, you know, going from selling a product to selling a service has been quite the transition for me, both from a process perspective and from a product perspective, because you have to look at products totally different with the training lenses on. Anyway, that was a lot just to say that it's been quite the adapt.
No, and I bet, and I think that you make a really good point. Selling a product versus selling a service is really challenging.
Yeah.
Particularly because in some ways selling a service is way easier because you can adapt in all of these, and especially if things are coming through inbound, there's kind of a way to like pitch or package what you're doing in a way that's going to work for damn near anybody, and that can be very tempting. But you're right, it's not always the right move. And so figuring out when you say no and when you you know, give up certain opportunities that seem shiny and nice and potentially really good, but to recognize that there's something that is a way better fit where you're going to make a bigger impact that is right around the corner.
Yeah, it's a tough sacrifice to make. I put a post out about how people prepare for their week in the Make It Happen community on Facebook. For those of you out there that want to join, feel free. Happy to talk there anytime. I do a lot of outreach and a lot of help on coaching on that platform. So we had something up there, and I said, how do you guys prepare? You know, you're ready, you got the week coming, it's going to be Monday. I said, what's the move? Because weekend time is really important for like what's coming up. How do you plan for that and prepare mentally? Nobody just goes through the weekend like, oh, look at my calendar Monday morning, I'm not worried about it. All right, everybody, at least,
well, some people do, but
I think that's bananas.
Advised.
I think that's bananas. You're crazy if that's how you're living your life out there. You're crazy. So I put it out there, like, how do you prepare for your following week? And Jake Lynn jumped in and said that he does a lot of his personal branding stuff through the weekend because he has to do it on his personal time. And I think that's such a noble thing, right? We have to find that time. That was my response. We have to find that time where we can. John Barrows is notorious for pulling up his calendar in real time in trainings and being like, anybody's calendar look like mine? No? Then there's no excuse. Because you should see this dude's calendar. It's ridiculous.
It's like, rather legendary, actually.
It is ridiculous to see it. So like, I love that part because a lot of the excuses that you hear for people that are not successful in sales is time constraints. That's like That's the go-to answer that they give you when they say, why didn't this get done? Fill in the blank, no matter what it is. Oh, I didn't have time. It's the go-to. Oh, I was too busy reaching out, too busy doing content, too busy, too busy. Look at that schedule and then tell me that you're too busy to put out content or create something of some value in a message by doing a little bit of research, right? That guy is everywhere at the same time.
And honestly, like, I think I'm really glad you're hitting on this, because I've been thinking about this a ton lately of, people complaining about how they don't have time to do this, they don't have time to do that. And oftentimes it's stuff that is more about like sort of personal development, the stuff that is harder to measure, like, right? Like they might be making the calls, but like, oh, I don't have time to read, or I don't have time to learn anything new, or things like that. And that, to me, it's like that it all comes down to prioritization, and like, how do you design your day and your life in order to get done what you need to do to kind of get to that next level. And I think it's one thing, and Ashleigh and I, it hasn't gone live yet, but we recorded an episode around like your routine, like what systems do you have for sort of organizing your day and organizing your life. And I really wish in any job and in any industry, somebody sat down and trained you how to do this. But I think sales, especially, the time management that goes beyond just a block for making calls and a block for doing research, like the stuff that's like, when do you meditate? When do you listen to a book that's going to help you, that's going to, train you to do something new? When do you go ask somebody for coffee, or like all of these things? Because that's the stuff that's going to really get you to that next level and give you that edge.
And I think it's important here to mention too, especially given your work with Uncrushed, it's really easy. And I heard all this stuff when I started my career in sales and thought, okay, this is why everyone's working 10, 12 hours a day. This is all stuff that can be done in an 8-hour day if you're smart and efficient with how you use your time.
I think the biggest,
usually,
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions we have is that we have to have results now.
Yeah.
It's okay to just do a discovery call. Don't try to sell people on that one call. It's your first call. It's not going to go that route.
It's actually better. Like you can't sell an entire product in one call. And if you can,
then you probably don't need a discovery call. You probably just need to go straight to a closing stage, and it's a run rate product. You don't need to do a full consultative sales process.
I think that there's an element here that people forget about, and that is that it's not a 9 to 5. That's just a construct that's been created by society. Right now, you guys are on the West Coast, I think. It's 6:36 my time. I had a choice, right? I didn't have to schedule this after 5 o'clock. I could have said, hey guys, this doesn't work for me. Can you do morning and I'll be in the afternoon? And that's the way I'm on, quote, working hours. Mm-hmm. But why would I do that? It's an opportunity to build my brand even further by being on a great show with some women I love that understand what it is to be in the SaaS space and struggle the way we struggle with constantly evolving and changing our perspectives so that we can be more effective for our clients. That equation right there is tough enough. You got to find the time to put into it. Sometimes it's about learning hours. Other times it's about busy hours. Other times it's about revenue generating hours. It depends on how you're structuring your life. And I think we can all say that we could all use more structure in our lives. How often do you say to yourself, what am I doing? This is a waste of my time. I need to be doing something else. And you immediately switch gears, right?
Well, and honestly, that's exactly what Ashleigh and I talked about on this episode is that so I really love the quote that discipline gives you freedom. And part of it is that when you have these kind of systems and you've got these kind of systems built out, yes, you absolutely still will do something where you're like, what the hell am I doing? I am totally wasting time. But figuring out what you should be doing instead, it becomes way easier, and you're much more likely to catch yourself in that moment rather than just like go through the motion and continue to do the thing that isn't really adding any value.
It's a true story. Have you guys ever had that moment where you realize that what you're doing is not productive, and then you immediately have to like shut everything down. Have you ever closed out all your tabs randomly just to be like, okay, reset, let's go?
No, but I really should do that.
So I'm very lucky. I live in a multiple computer household. I've actually just taken my laptop and put it in a drawer and gone to another computer in another room to start over.
That's pretty good. You just pop open that one when you're ready to get back to it and all your tabs are there.
Yeah.
You're a crazy person.
No, I just needed that fresh start. I was like, nope, there's too much. I'm going to just go. And I don't have any of the social. I don't have any Slack's not on there.
Oh, I have to shut everything out. Like I'm finding, like I used to work with music. Morgan and I, for those of you out there that don't follow Morgan J. Ingram, he's awesome. Feel free to follow him. He's awesome. Tell him that I sent you so that he can be bothered. So Morgan said in a show that he did with Ali Mujib that he gave up listening to music while he worked, just because he felt like he was distracted by the lyrics or the beat that he knew, and he felt like it was slowing him down just to stop every couple seconds and enjoy this music. I feel like some people can listen to stuff very subconsciously. I have a really hard time with anything that has lyrics because I want to sing.
Yep.
And
and honestly,
same thing.
That's one thing. Like I love my Chopin Pandora channel, but then also on Spotify they've got some like, I think it's called like productive morning, and it's like weird electronic music that like has kind of a good beat, not a beat that you're gonna like rock out to, but enough to like give you some motivation, but there's no lyrics, and it doesn't really have a repeating melody, so you don't really get, it's like good background. But it is.
And I'm kind of, I was gonna say, and I'm laughing because I had to go kind of, I've done that same journey where it's start off listening to kind of my, only the best rock, Pandora channel. And then same thing, I'm singing along to it a little bit too much. It's still kind of my jam. If I need to rock something out, that's what goes on. Then I switched over to doing classical music. Lots of, like the Chopin and the Mozarts and a lot of that stuff, still no lyrics. But that I found actually was more distracting because I found myself rediscovering pieces that I analyzed in college and then going down the rabbit hole of, I remember this is when they're going to do this specific modulation and they're going to do this. And remembering all these random stuff from when I was in school. So now it's turned into nature. So now I've got like, the Calm app, and I'll put on like mountain scene. And it's like a rumbling brook.
See,
and that's the only thing that works.
That would make me want to take a nap, I think. But this is the theme, is that, and this is what we talked about on this episode, like you have to test a bunch of things and really pay attention to what works for you. Because here's the other thing. So now I can listen to music that has lyrics. Up until a year ago, hell no, I could not do that. I would get so distracted. And so it's like you go through these phases, these modes where you can listen to some things, or one kind of system or one thing will help you be more productive, and it shifts, and you've got to be really self-aware and adaptable.
I found since I started working from home exclusively that the silence really does me well. I can be really productive, but here's my other thing that I did not know that I do, because I didn't work from home before and I had other people sitting around me. I talk to myself a lot.
Oh, I did that with other people.
So sometimes like sitting on the park bench, right? You're just like talking. That's great.
Oh, I'd be editing things. I'd be editing emails and like verbally correcting myself to the point where the person next to me would be like, Ashleigh, who are you talking to? Nothing, just ignore me.
Yeah.
Like, that would happen a couple days a week. But okay, it's for me, it's the opposite. The silence is deafening. I have to have something on, or I will pick up on any little noise and it becomes more distracting. So I need that white noise, or I can't.
Yeah, that's why you like the river. That would definitely make me want to take a nap. I don't think I could do that.
The one thing, I'll say this is how you know I'm from Seattle. The one sound that does make me tired consistently is rain.
Oh, I thought you were going to say airplanes passing overhead.
I'm closer to the flight path here in Raleigh than I was in Seattle. Seattle, they went over us at 30,000 feet.
I want to switch gears, but I think so you guys have a story that resonated with me, and I don't want to rehash it. Like, it's okay. But I do want to talk about what it spawned, because I really admire the other side of sales for kind of stepping into the light and saying, hey, this is a culture that has to change, and that's the bro culture. And that's
Yep.
how you and I originally got connected, Kasey, was
Yep.
through John Barrows and his stand against the bro culture. And I think you and I's first conversation was inspired by John
Yes.
introducing both of us and saying, I think the two of you would get along well.
Yes.
So my thing is this, and this is what really gets me, and I have a double-sided view here. And this is probably a sensitive subject, but that's what you guys talk about, so we're gonna go with it anyway.
Bring it on.
And I never mean any offense, so standard disclaimer applies. Nobody throw rocks at me.
Well,
So
you're through a computer, so if we were throwing rocks at you, it would be at our own computers.
It's twofold, right? My first comment is that I think that sales needs more women in it, and not just women, but like diversity in general.
Yeah.
Like new perspectives attract new clients.
Yes.
That's not rocket science. That is a
No.
natural progression in our world.
Yep.
So I feel like diversity, I celebrate diversity in any facet, especially in the sales role, because it's such a rare thing to find diversity. Almost all sales teams are predominantly made up of white males. That's just a statistic that we know to be true. You know, when you look at, you know, the story of how you guys ended up creating this whole thing and us ended up talking about the bro culture, it was such an interesting thing to see that happen, because so many people were jumping on and going, yeah, we got to change this. We got to change this. And all of them were white males, which I thought was interesting. Here's what gets me. I know that women can get online and create content just like I do, just like Don does, just like you two ladies do.
Yeah.
And when they do it, they tend to be so much more successful, so much faster than men. And yet they are afraid.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's a fear of persecution, rejection, judgment, peers, loss, failure, creation. I mean, there's any number of fears that could probably step in the way there. But I feel like the ones that do, you see them skyrocket. I mean, they go so far, so fast. And I'm not sure what it is. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
So, like,
I'm interviewing you on your own show.
Yeah, no. So I think you touch on a couple of things. Your whole list of the many reasons why maybe a woman might not put herself out there, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest is imposter syndrome. Is when I talk to women, it's a lot of, I'm not an expert. I don't think I have anything to say.
Why would anyone care?
Why would anyone care?
No one will listen to me.
No one will listen to me. But then it's also really interesting. It's like, we know lots of women. We also recorded an episode recently that was in response to a post that Rachel May, I know a very good friend of yours, posted, where she was saying how she'd put a video out and was proud of the content, but she wasn't really wearing makeup and she just looked like her normal self. And she almost immediately got a comment from a former male colleague saying, hey, you should really doll yourself up. You really need to do your hair and do your makeup if you're going to put stuff out there. And I think that's the other thing. I think the final thing that I will mention is I think there's a lot of women that also are really worried about men viewing them putting content out as an invitation for kind of inappropriate engagement. And I know a lot of women. I feel very lucky. I haven't gotten very many of these. I've gotten some, but I know a lot of women that like regularly get proposed to on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And I think it's all of those combined. And let me tell you, if you are feeling a little bit insecure and you're a little nervous about it, and then someone says, hey, you really should wear more makeup, and then another person says, hey, baby, I think you're really attractive, you should let me take you out. That woman, it basically nail in the coffin why she was nervous to do it in the first place.
I think that's the other thing is, whether real or not, the perceived risk feels higher for women.
Yeah,
I know for me, anything all the content that I create, especially at this phase in my career, I'm asking myself with everything I put up, there's this voice in my head that says, could someone choose not to hire me because of this?
Yep.
And that's a scary thing, because it feels like, okay, it's already a limited enough market of people who are really going to hire me and treat me fairly. So I want to limit it even more by posting something that could be stupid. I don't think anything I'm going to do is going to be offensive. I'm more worried it's going to be stupid or obvious.
But also, you know, Ashleigh and I are not going to mention any names here, but we also sort of heard through the grapevine that someone's take on our podcast was it's two white ladies being angry. And
nice.
like, that's one of those things where it's like, I don't feel like we're really all that angry on this podcast.
I feel this has been a very mellow conversation for what that's worth.
Well, and I'm the one who got that feedback, and my initial reaction was, awesome. We actually got negative feedback, because it's one thing to get positive feedback when you're face to face with someone. It's a lot harder to hear negative feedback. So I was like, that's great. Tell me why. Tell me
criticism.
more.
Criticism, in my opinion, is always much more valuable than accolades. Yeah. But I don't think that that's constructive criticism. I think that's.
I'm working on that.
And
I'll make it constructive.
And I would also say, like, that to me means you didn't listen. It means someone maybe listened to like a couple of minutes of one episode and I was like,
and then
just
made
wrote
a
it
decision.
off.
Sure.
Because the vast majority of the stuff we talk about is actually like constructive or positive. Like, I don't actually, like, I don't really think we get very angry on this. And if somebody thinks that this is anger, holy moly, like, you lead a very sheltered
Try actually crossing us. You'll see what angry looks like.
You know? And so to me, that's one of those things where it's like, that's also really telling, where it's like, hey, we don't fit into this really nice box, so let's immediately dismiss. And I think that's the other thing that comes up is like, women are, I don't know, we're a lot more likely to be very cautious about this thing. You know, so I posted about this, but Scott Barker posted pretty recently. He said that he gets between 12 and 15 emails every single week from men wanting to be on his podcast. Mm-hmm. And he never gets messages from women. And I talked to another guy who he has a podcast about software development. He's like has a super famous podcast. And he said the same thing. I asked him how he gets his guests, and he said, white men send me a pitch. And he was like, the vast majority of the time, they're totally worth it, and I get them on. And he said, if it's a woman or a person of color, I have to find them, and then I have to convince them that that they have something that is worth sharing. And he showed me an email thread that he had with a really, really impressive woman. And he had 7 messages back and forth. And then it got on a phone call with her where he read her resume out loud to her to convince her that she was interesting enough to come on his podcast.
That's amazing.
Men don't need that.
Well, and it's, you know, and that actually reminds me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And and the most common question we get asked from people of color, women who we've had on this program, the moment we stop recording is, was that good?
Yeah.
Do you think your listeners will like that?
Always.
First thing that comes out. It's become kind of a running joke, future people who may be interviewed. But I'll say this, it's not unique to sales. And one of the things, actually Lori Richardson introduced me to, which I've become a huge fan of, is this program called I Am Remarkable, which came out of Google. Because Google realized that, whatever you want to think of Google, they created this program because they realized that women struggled to verbalize and even see their own accomplishments. And then if you don't see the accomplishments and acknowledge them, then you can't advocate for yourself effectively within the organization. So they created I Am Remarkable, which is a lot of different things. But one of the things it can be is a workshop where anyone can take it, but it's really designed to help you focus and think about what you've accomplished and how you are remarkable, and then get more comfortable sharing it. And I participated in a shortened version of this program, and it shook me to my core how uncomfortable I was, like writing a list of everything I'd accomplished in the past year. It took me, like, we had 15 minutes. It literally took me 10 minutes to write 3 things.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, it's not that, I don't know about this, and did it, and finally I got through it. But
do you think that's because you didn't accomplish much, or because you have a hard time acknowledging that it is in fact an accomplishment?
Because I have a really hard time admitting it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like there's all these tips and emails that say, oh, you know, write down every week, write down what you did and keep a running list of everything you've accomplished or you've done.
I started my 2020 jar. So every week I put in an accomplishment. So at the end of the year, I'll have all my accomplishments.
That's awesome.
I like that. That's actually cute. I like that. But it's a really hard, I found that to be something that is incredibly uncomfortable for me. And the moment I think of something I've done, I immediately start minimizing it.
So what I'm thinking about, I'm going to need to find it. I don't think it was Saturday Night Live. I can't remember who did it, but there's this sketch where it's all these women that like run into each other on the streets of New York, and they'll be like, oh, your hair looks so cute. And then it's something like, oh, are you kidding? My hair is disgusting. And it like goes around and around, and it winds up being like 10 different women all like being super self-deprecating because they can't take a compliment. And then one woman walks up and they're like, oh, like, I love your outfit. And she's like, oh, thank you. And all their heads explode. Because
I need this in my life.
I will find it. But like, this is true. Like, we women have an incredibly hard time, like, talking about what we've done well, putting ourselves out there. You know, the other thing, like, I think about a bunch, if you look at, so the only women that are, not the only, the only women that I think are really, really active on LinkedIn and have these like big public brands where they're putting out a ton of content, they're all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You don't see women that work for other companies that do it. You do see men that work for other companies, but the women are much more concerned about being viewed as stealing the limelight, or kind of being an attention hog, or we're always going to put the attention onto somebody else and not on ourselves. And it's one of the only ways we can get out of that is by kind of being on our own. And
yeah.
I mean, I can say from personal experience, it wasn't until I went out on my own that I felt the confidence to start really getting out there when it came to my personal brand. And I don't know that I would have done as much or been as public if I were working for a company.
Yeah, I think that there has to be an element of buy-in, and you and I have had that conversation a couple different ways, a couple different times. But I think what matters is what you're representing, because what you're representing is what's going to tell a company whether or not there should be buy-in. I get the question all the time of like, what do I do if my company tells me that I can't create content? Well, that's not what they said. What they said was, don't mention our company or our service or our product.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk about those kinds of things. Create a buzz around yourself. That's what's going to drive the connection.
Oh,
and that's really where the value of having a strong personal brand is the reach that comes from being able to create a 1-minute video and get 20,000 views and 8,000 likes and 6,000 comments, right? Like all those people.
God, I wish I was getting 6,000.
I know. I was just gonna say, it's like, and now likes. I'm uncomfortable with my stats. Well, you know, I say this though. I think there's a really common stumbling block here, and it's one thing to sell to salespeople. It's another thing to sell to non-salespeople, which is what the majority of our peers do. And it's really easy to fall into the mindset of, oh, well, branding's only if you want to be a consultant or you want to be a VP of sales and da-da-da-da. You can build a brand as an expert in an industry. You can build a brand around any number of things. It's not just like, oh, here's how I do my job and what makes me awesome. You can build a brand as the person who shares. I follow somebody I know who's in the security space, and his whole shtick, and he's brilliant at this. He basically has a de facto newsletter on LinkedIn. He goes and finds one really good article about something going on in the security space, and he posts it on LinkedIn every day. He has more CIOs that follow him than I even know, and he posts about his product maybe once a month.
Yeah, well, but that's one of the things that I tell people all the time is that you're just assuming that the brand that you want has to do with the job that you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. Sometimes it works out beautifully that way. Sometimes it works out not at all that way. And you just have to kind of figure out where you fit in that picture. And here's the other part of it. What you're doing has to impact a group of people in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
You can call attention to a problem, but if you're not going to propose a solution or discuss potential solutions,
Oh yeah.
what you're really doing is putting negativity out there. And I don't
You're
think
just
that
bitching.
you're just bitching. Yeah,
As the
and anybody
immoral-
can do that.
As one of my favorite sales execs I've ever worked with, Adam Aarons, used to say, don't show up and leave a pile of dog shit on my doorstep.
Somebody said that to you?
Frequently.
That's so
Frequently.
great.
That was one of, there were like 5 or 6 Adam-isms that he uses. If he hears this, I hope. I know. And if he hears me say that, he's going to laugh his butt off.
You guys should have a little tagline for your show that just says, "You're just bitching."
Here's
It's
the
funny.
solution
It's
to
funny
bro
on
culture.
so
You're just
many
bitching.
levels. It's seriously.
That one has layers.
White
Oh, so many layers.
white ladies ranting.
Yeah.
But
We're just bitching.
We're just bitching. But it
It's
is
just
like.
bitching.
But I will. I will.
I'm sorry.
It's just
I'm sorry.
bitching. Yeah. The layers. But I think that that's spot on. Is that like one, the negativity? It does not. That is not a brand to build, and it's not going to take you anywhere. And you might get like one post that goes viral with you bitching about something, as long as it's kind of bitching about it in a funny way.
Yep.
But that's not a consistent thing.
The
I will
best
also
acid
say,
test.
yeah.
The best acid test is when you see that person and then all they ever do is put out negative stuff. Go to that profile and look through their feed. What you'll see is that they tweet and they comment and they put stuff out all the time and nobody engages.
Exactly.
Because that's not what people gravitate towards. That is for sure, I'm avoiding that.
I'll say this. I'm
without a doubt.
laughing because we mentioned Rachel May, and I sent Kasey this comment because it just cracked me up. She posted again the next week with the hashtag Fiercely Female Friday, and somebody jumped in and tried to contradict her on something. I forget what. And she responded back, and I'm personally a huge fan of don't feed the trolls.
Yeah.
Just don't feed the trolls. Nothing good comes of it. But she did. And God love her. I love how she handled it. She responded to him, and she's like, my post has more likes than you have followers.
Oh, nice. That sounds like
and
Rachel, yeah.
And it did by a few exponential correlations. But there's nothing if you can't say something nice, and that's it. There's negativity and criticism too.
Well, that's the other part of the puzzle, though, right? Like, people will often say to me, what do you do when people come at you with that stuff? And I'll tell you what I do, and I'll tell you it's probably changed a lot of people's lives when they hear this, because some people have a tendency to just pull the trigger and re-engage. Oh, is that what you think? We're going crazy on the keyboard, right? What I do is I go, oh man, thank you so much for that perspective. I really appreciate your contribution to the post. That's all I say. You can read it in any tone that you like.
Yes.
And then you hit enter and say, fuck you under your breath.
Yeah.
I don't even say that. I just move on about my day. I'm not going to give them the time it takes or the energy to feel that way.
Well, because that's the other thing is like, the fastest way to kind of suck the energy out of an exchange like that is to be like genuinely kind about it. And I think it's all too often those are the people that like they feed off of your negative energy, and if you just don't give it to them, they probably will never comment on your stuff again.
I actually want them to. I welcome it because I feel like it gives me an opportunity to show them what positive looks like.
But that's the thing, when you respond in that way, they probably won't respond again. If they do, there's a shift. And they've realized, and honestly, like I've definitely had times where someone will say something like that, and I won't be as kind about it, but I'll usually be like, respond fairly positively, not really engage with the negative stuff. And there's been multiple times where I will then get a message like a direct message being like, whoa, I didn't think about it like that. And like, I remember once, and it was when Ashleigh and I first started talking about doing this podcast. I don't quite remember what I posted, but I posted something about, you know, the lack of women in sales. And a Black man from Atlanta responded, and he was like, really? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And because I was talking about some sort of like sexism or judgment or something like that. And I responded and I was like, you know, and kind of said, I sort of felt like as a Black man, like you would get it. And like, and what I asked is I was like, how many, cause he said something about how he had worked with tons of women. I was like, okay, how many of them have been promoted to director or VP? And I said something like that. And he sent me a direct message and he was like, oh my God, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
And wow. And he was like, I realized that this is a lot more like, you know, what it is like for me as a Black man feeling kind of alone in this. And I never thought about it that way. There are other people that also sent me direct messages saying that I was being mean to him. And I was like, hey, we're actually in a like pretty deep and honest conversation here. And no, I was being maybe a little bit direct, but it wound up being something kind of positive. And I think that's the thing is like, there's this way of, and sometimes I say, don't waste your time and energy, but there is a way of like turning some of the trolls, finding empathy for the trolls. I think Sarah Silverman does this on Twitter better than anyone I have ever seen ever. Where she basically will show the troll empathy. And she has wound up in these like really deep and personal conversations with people that were saying truly awful things to her and on a public forum. And it's incredible.
And that takes a lot of strength. Like,
it does.
I don't know that I could do that. I feel like I'm at a point, especially like right now, where it's like I only have so much emotional energy in my day.
Yep.
I do not have the emotional energy to engage if someone's coming at me with something that's fairly negative. I do not have the energy to deal with that.
I think I just became blind to it.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing to do because everywhere, and the media doesn't help, right? It just perpetuates the way we feel about each other, which is crazy. If ever there was an organization that was designed to separate, that's the one.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to me to see how people don't look at it from that lens, and they end up in situations where, you know, they work with many, many women and they never realize that they've never been promoted, or the woman will eventually come to them and say, I've decided to move on. And inevitably the question is, oh my God, well, why? Right. And they're like, well, I've been here for 5 years and I've had 3 managers and I'd really like a crack at that. But you guys seem to think that you should hire from outside. And frankly, I've asked a couple times and that's not happened yet. So I think I need to search elsewhere for that opportunity to take the next step in my career. How often, and you can tell how often I've heard women say that because I roll it off the tongue with no problem.
Yeah.
But like, that's the way that it feels for them when they get passed over year after year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I just don't understand why that's a thing.
I think what's really scary is you've heard it so often it's rolling off of your tongue. What's scary is how many of those conversations don't happen. The women just, or whatever, just leave.
Nope, because no one asked them why they're leaving.
Because they just let them go. Yeah.
Oh, they don't want to be here anymore. Okay.
I talked to a woman. This was maybe a year ago, and she was saying how she hired, trained, and managed 9 different men who are all VPs now, and she's still a manager.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. I don't even have the words.
And she, and she was like,
that's crazy.
She was like, I haven't even counted the men that are directors. And she's like, but I know the number that are managers. And she was like, over my like 15-year career, 9. And so it's one of those things where it's like, look, you know, maybe it does sound like we're super angry when we talk about this. I don't think that we're angry. It's just, and like, yes, okay, I am angry in lots and lots of ways. I don't think that this podcast is really us raging, but it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, we're going to keep talking about it.
It's an intelligent conversation, you know?
Yeah, and we're going to keep talking about it because it's the only way that anything is going to change. And if like one person winds up like looking at the world a little bit differently, looking at their coworkers a little bit differently, looking at how
Yeah.
they hire a little bit differently. Like
Yeah.
that's a huge win. And this is going to take a lot of consistent effort from a lot of us.
I'll tell you what it takes. And I learned this just today. This is true stuff right here. Hanging out with a friend of mine, he's a little bit older. I get a lot of Christmas cards. People send me Christmas cards all the time.
That doesn't surprise me.
I get like mailboxes full of Christmas cards. I love Christmas cards.
Now that I'm actually in a house, I kind of want Christmas cards because I have a mantle to put them on for once.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So this was a personalized Christmas card, and it had handwritten message inside, and on the front was a picture of this man and his wife and their 3 kids. And I said to him, I said, look at this Christmas card. Isn't this a nice Christmas card? You know you're doing right when the VP of Biz Dev at this big company sends you a personalized Christmas card. And my older friend looks at it and goes, nice, what's his name? And I go, she's the VP.
Yes.
That's her husband. He doesn't work for that company. but he made the assumption.
Oh,
because I said the word VP. He made the assumption that it was the man in the photo that was the VP.
So the worst part about it, I probably would too.
I was gonna say
that's the worst part.
I thought it was gonna be a him too.
The worst part was that I didn't even think about that when I said it until he said he, and I went, huh, that's interesting. Yeah. It's her, actually. And then it hit me like, oh, and I was really lucky because we were having this conversation today. So I was like, this is perfect.
I have an anecdote. Yeah.
So before we kind of start to wrap up, I want to make sure that we cover something very important. I want to hear about your involvement in Uncrushed.
Yep.
And what got you involved with Uncrushed. And I want, for those that haven't listened to Tim Clark's episode, I want to give a reminder of what you all are doing, what you're working on.
Sure.
Because Ashleigh and I are huge believers in everybody involved in Uncrushed, but also what you are doing.
As well as members in the community.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate this support. Uncrushed is a community of people, individuals from all walks of life and all businesses that you can imagine. And what we've done is form an alliance. That alliance is a nonprofit organization that our mission is to remove and expose the stigma related to the mental health crisis in America in business. So everyone that we know, no matter who you are, we're not immune to mental health struggles, loss, grief, anxiety, depression, eating disorders. All these things affect everybody every day. And we all still have to come to work and put a smile on our face and hit a goal. And it will weigh us down. And a lot of people that come to work every day are on time and work hard consistently, struggle with mental health issues, and are afraid to go to their employers for help, for fear that they could be labeled, for fear of judgment and persecution, removal of title, loss of job entirely. And this is a problem, obviously, because mental health is not bias, and it affects everyone on the earth, no matter what age, what background you have. We all struggle with mental health issues, no matter what they might look like. So that is the mission of Uncrushed. Visit us at uncrushed.org if you want to submit your story. There's a form there so you can do it. I am the podcast host. I've interviewed Miss Kasey Jones on the Uncrushed podcast. So likewise, if you're out there looking at Tim's episode, you definitely want to check out Kasey's episode too.
James made me cry.
In a good way, not in a bad way.
That's right. This was the podcast with your ride or die bitch.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yes, and I was like totally not expecting it, and I totally started crying talking about my beloved dog.
Yeah, she's beautiful. So, the dog and Kasey. So we want to just help out with whatever we can do in that space. Sometimes that is teaching management about the space and how to facilitate that conversation. We're not mental health professionals. Standard disclaimer there. We tell everybody that we are not mental health professionals in any way. What we are a collective group of people that have been through a lot of hardships in our lives and come out okay on the other end. Whatever that might look like to you might be success in work. It might be stability at home. It could be not drinking. It could be, the removal of drugs in your life. It looks like a lot of things to a lot of people. But that's how we're helping others, is by getting these stories out and letting others express themselves and tell those stories so that people in the world know that they're not alone in these struggles. And there are others out there that can tell you the steps that they took to overcome these obstacles and be successful. And that's the Uncrushed mission. I was originally introduced to Tim Clark, the founder of Uncrushed, by John Barrows, my now boss. I worked for John. I started in December, late December, and John and I got on the Make It Happen Monday podcast, and I've known John for about 5 years now, and he asked me how I stay so happy and how I stay so positive, which is a very common question for me. And I told him that I was a recovering cocaine addict that came out of Miami and really struggled with addiction to hard drugs, and I made it through that and moved away and started a whole new life. And I went back to college and got a degree, and for some ungodly reason, I've always felt really comfortable speaking to John. I'd never had any hard time with that. And for some reason in that moment, I just didn't even realize that I was on this podcast and I was just giving up this story. And he was just, wow, that's an amazing story. And from there, Tim Clark saw the episode and went on and told his story, and John immediately connected the two of us. And a couple months later, we talked, and he thought I said, I have this idea for this podcast, and I think we should do it. And he was like, well, you're going to host it. And I was like, definitely. So we've now put out 12 episodes, and I am currently in the process of building a studio in my basement to continue to do episodes.
That's awesome.
So that's how I got involved.
Because I got to get in on this
Uncrushed.
somehow. I mean, I'm just feeling left out now.
Yeah.
I'm messed up too.
Well, and I'll tell you, James, that I think it was your episode with John came out. What was it? It was not this last fall, but the fall before.
Yeah, 2018.
He and I were talking because we were preparing to do the We Need to Talk webinar about ending bro culture. And so I can't remember if I saw him at Dreamforce or saw him for something, but it was like around that time. And I remember talking to him and he was like, oh my God, did you listen to Make It Happen this week? And I was like, no, I haven't yet. And he was like, you need to listen to James. And he was like, you will not believe this. And he was like, I feel like you two would really get along. And it was like, I listened, and then it was like, I don't know, a month or two later that he finally made the introduction between the two of us. So I feel like that podcast episode was this like coming together of, I don't know, a lot of us that love each other.
I was gonna say, I love this too, because I just want to just give some geography here that really blows my mind. James, you're in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Kasey, you're in Portland. John Barrows is up in Boston.
Right.
And Tim's in San Francisco.
LA, actually.
LA.
He's in LA. We're literally crossing the country.
Yes.
Red states, predominantly blue states, but red states, blue states, all different sizes, all different cities. That's the thing, is like it's this upswell of everybody's like, okay, it's time.
And that's the thing that I think is, one, amazing about what Uncrushed is doing, but two, also one of the things I really, really love about the sales industry is there's something really unifying and really like, I don't know, there's a connection that happens between all of us that are doing similar things in vastly different scenarios and for vastly different companies. And there's this bond that forms, and it's really like, it's this sales community where, I mean, some of the closest friendships I've made in the last couple of years have really come from this family of people. And I know that it can be kind of cutthroat sometimes, and I know it cannot always feel welcome, but man, get out there and like find your little sales tribe, because it exists. And there are some truly amazing people in our space and in our industry, and people that just are really supportive and really wonderful.
Kasey, I think success is the glue that holds us all together because it looks different for all of us.
Oh,
Like success is such a vague term, and yet we're all striving for it in some way, shape, or form in our lives, both professional and personal. So I think success for salespeople specifically, whatever it might look like, is the glue that makes us better together. And that's the
yeah,
hashtag I use, hashtag better together,
better
right?
together.
Because
Yeah,
we're all better together. We learn from one another and try different things and report back to each other, and that's what gives us the difference, right? That's what makes us improve a little bit each time we take on 20% of that tip that was just given us. Because that's what we get. We get like 20% of everything that
yeah.
comes to us, and we go, oh yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just add it to my to-do list that never ends.
Please don't remind me about my to-do list.
No, I don't even want to talk about it. I have like 6 to-do lists.
Yeah. No, do remind me because I'm really behind on a bunch of
Hey,
things.
remind me to do my to-dos. All right, well, this has been great.
We're
This
not
has been
done.
great, but we're not done.
Oh,
We've got
oh,
our rapid fire round. So
oh,
don't overthink it.
all right.
There's some serious ones, there's some fun ones. So
Perfect.
first and foremost, James, I really want to swear here for your middle name, James. Pause. Buckley. What's your morning routine?
I get up at 5 every day, and by 5:05, I'm in my inbox answering any emails I might have. I have 2 cups of coffee every single morning, even though I make an entire pot. The rest of the coffee gets poured out front so that the mosquitoes stay away.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
stealing that for this summer. All right, James, pick one person who's had a significant impact on your career.
Morgan J. Ingram. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Dude, what's your pump up song?
AC/DC's Back in Black.
Oh my God, that's perfect for you.
That fits. All right, what's one thing you wish you'd learned earlier?
Ooh, I wish I learned when to use humor as a mask and when not to.
Oh, dude, that is deep and meaningful right there.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and
Palpable.
I immediately want to make the joke. Wait, you're not supposed to use humor as a mask all the time? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
It's gotten me in trouble saying the wrong thing at the wrong time many times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite sales book?
Definitely gap selling right now, but I also love Tiffany Bova's Growth IQ. If you haven't read Growth IQ, Tiffany Bova of Salesforce does a great job highlighting some awesome businesses and how they became successful.
Oh, that's awesome. I just finished gap selling. Freaking loved it.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It's a great book.
I love the no fluff in it. You
Yeah.
know, it's everything in there is very actionable and you can take great stuff. Also, it's worth it to mention John Barrows' children's book, I Want to Be in Sales When I Grow Up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you haven't picked that up for your kid, it's epic.
It
Or
is.
your nieces and nephews or neighbors.
Yes.
All right. What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you?
So I once worked with a VP of marketing who spent 2 years telling me that what I was doing was not valuable for the company. That person probably could have helped me to do it better and had it worked out where we could be more collaborative. I feel we could have brought a lot of great business to the table. But unfortunately, I think that this person looked at me with through a lens of competitor instead of we could really do something amazing together, which is what I hoped would happen, but inevitably it didn't, and we ended up parting ways, not on such great terms.
What's one way you are working to be a better ally to others?
I consistently remind myself to ask everyone I meet how I can be of value to them as soon as possible in the conversation, so that way they can be really clear with what they're after from me, and in return I can do the same.
Yeah.
All right, and last, and I have a feeling I know the answer to this after our pre-recording discussion. What's your guilty pleasure after a bad day?
Whiskey.
So what's the whiskey right now?
So right now I'm on the Lagavulin 16, but I'm a huge fan of the Yellow Spot. It's an Irish whiskey. It's a copper pot still, really creamy on the front end, fruit finish, super nice.
It's like the only Irish that I actually like.
The Yellow Spot?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get the,
I'm not
go
a
ahead.
big fan of Irish.
What's your suggestion, Ashleigh?
Redbreast.
The
Recently
15?
discovered that. Yeah.
The 15. Try the 15, and also if you get the chance, try the Redbreast Lestau.
Yeah, I haven't had that one.
It's a little bit different. Yeah.
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 Well, fabulous. And so everybody listening knows, what is the best way to get in touch with you
You
if they
guys
want to
will
learn
love
about
this.
what you're doing, or they want to hire you now that you're at JBarrows?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is probably outside of the box for people that answer this on your show, but I'll answer it. Anybody that wants to connect with me, feel free. My email address is james@jbarrows.com, or cold call me. I love getting cold calls. My cell is 305-632-6005. If you cold call me, it will not be easy. Do not cold call me. If you didn't do your research, I will call you out on it. But I love your cold call.
I love it. Also, I think I'm going to steal Pitbull's name for you. And I'm going to start calling you Mr. 305. Because I think it's hilarious that you still have a Miami area code, even though you haven't lived in Miami in like 10 years.
I'll never let it go. I can't let it go.
I'm with you with the 425. You will pry my cell from my cold, dead hands, even though I will never live on the east side of Seattle again.
They don't even have 305 numbers anymore.
Yep.
No. I know. James, this was absolutely fabulous. We love you to pieces. We're going to make you come back here again sometime.
Awesome.
And thank you for all that you do and all of your amazing energy.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on the show.
We appreciate you.